FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
So the interesting thing now is that everybody here has probably seen Enemy of the State, Denzel Washington, great stuff going on, or any one of the many movies where you see satellites imaging in on people and tracking them in video. You know, let me tell you something. That is absolute horseshit. That is not true at all. Let me tell you what you have. You're at warfare. Bob, shoot! That's what you do. I'm not kidding. I went in to see the PEO soldier, and that's equivalent to the executive officer of the U.S. Army who decides everything a soldier will wear. And I presented, my vision of what would be good for soldiers. And he said, "You're not getting it, are you?" And I said, "Help me out, sir." He says, "My soldiers are drones. I don't want them to think. I don't want them to use their imagination. I don't want them looking at computer screens. I don't want them wearing tricky anything. I want them to point their gun and shoot when I tell them to. Are you clear?" And I said, "Sir, why is that? I'm profoundly ignorant, so please save me from myself." He said, "These guys are stupid." I said, so they're basically guys, high school, blue collar, not going on to college maybe or whatever, unless they need the GI Bill or something. He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, can I ask you a question? Would you mind if I just ask you a question? Because you could really help me out in my ignorance." He said, "Sure." I said, "How many of these young soldiers that you're talking about drive cars?" He said, "Oh, probably all of them. They might not own one, but they all drive them." I said, "Okay." And I said, "How many of them play video games?" "Yeah, probably 90% of them." So what about cell phones? "Yeah, probably 95%. I said, "Good. Can I share a little fun fact with you?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "You got a 500 megahertz high-speed DSP in every cell phone. You got guys driving down the road in that car that may be mom and dad's or their older brothers, and while their car has 44 microcontrollers controlling the window, the vents, the airflow, the temperature, and the works. They're SMSing high speed with 2,500 contacts and their cell phone, right? And then when they get home and they're bored, they're playing with their video game machine that is equivalent to a massive parallel processing supercomputer 5 years ago. And these guys, the second they tie their boots, turn into booger-eating morons? What am I missing? I'm missing something. Just help me. Well, I wasn't too welcome after that. So I went to intelligence again, and I said, "Guys, I'm in a high-speed freight train going nowhere. Help me out here." He said, "Sudden, what do you got?" So I went to Keith Alexander, who's now director of the NSA, and I said, "I can put in a network ass fast that'll connect every single one of these soldiers and put together an ad hoc self-healing mesh network." And he said, "How do they communicate?" I explained every guy will have a 1 to 2 megabit per second data rate wirelessly, and he'll have a 6 megabit per second data rate burst. And because it's ad hoc self-healing, it means all those packets of visual information from video or voice or moving maps are going to jump from guy to guy. He said, "Ooh, that's cool. How far?" Well, we tested it, and we were able to get in 4 packet hops, 18 kilometers or roughly 10 miles in downtown Baghdad, which was kind of revolutionary for him. So now what was happening is we went over the first time and put in a quick, small group. And essentially we created this mobile network. And they said, "Don't worry, we're going to give you high towers. And the top of the buildings will control them. It'll be beautiful." Those towers lasted 1 month. The Iraqis cut them, sold the copper, took the little towers home to put their TV antennas on them, and that was the end of the network. So Keith Alexander called me up and says, "Ralph, we got a problem. That isn't working too well." So he said, "Take your time. You got 30 days. Come up with another scheme." So what I did is I decided to make every single one of the vehicles essentially like a cell tower, but it's not. It's a mesh network moving node. So everything was a virtual access point. So every time the soldiers got out of vehicles to engage in combat, their data packets would hop from one to another and hop to the vehicle, and the vehicles had amplifiers in them, bidirectional amplifiers and big-ass antennas, and now they could talk back to a command post or tactical operations center. So why did this make it interesting? For the first time, guys at a tactical operations center and command post could see guys planting bombs by the side of the road. They were catching snipers and directing their guys with surgical fire so they don't hit people that are not supposed to be hit. So now there's about 4,000 of those out there, and it's expanding fast. And the politicians on Capitol Hill are doing their level best to kill me and then burn whatever I'm relieving myself of, because they don't really have a sense of humor, because I canceled, with the help of NSA, $4.5 billion of the $5 billion that was going to GD that had only bought 250 soldier systems total, and then they were rejected by the soldiers.